Today is the day. The red moon rises and demands a reckoning. What was not resolved ends. What is real remains. There is nowhere left to run, nothing left to postpone. The signs have been sent, the warnings have been given, the internal recalibration of Uranus has opened the fissures, and the energy has accumulated until this very moment. Today, September 7th, the full moon in Pisces enters the Earth's shadow to become the blood moon. And in this act, it performs its most ancient and powerful function, to be the great mirror of our submerged truth. Today's energy is not a suggestion, it is a verdict. It is the climax of a cycle that may have lasted for months or even years. It is the point of no return. The atmosphere of this day is dense, solemn, charged with finality. You may feel a stillness in the air, a sense that something immense is in suspension, waiting. This is the silence that precedes the revelation. The work of this eclipse is not to create chaos, but to end it by bringing to light a truth so undeniable that it dissolves all doubts, all illusions, and all half measures. It is not a day to ask, to manifest, or to force. It is a day to witness. What we will do together is exactly that, witness. We will understand what this cosmic settling of accounts means, which areas of life it is touching with the most force, and most importantly, what is the correct internal posture to cross this portal of completion, not with fear, not with resistance, but with the dignity of one who knows that every ending is, in its essence, a liberation. What needs to go will go. Our only task is not to stand in the way. To understand the force of what is happening today, we need to see the mechanics of the sky, not with jargon, but with clarity. What we have today is not just one event, but a confluence of three powerful forces, each amplifying the other, to create the energetic climax we are feeling. The first force is that of a simple full moon. Every full moon is a point of culmination. It is when the light of the sun completely illuminates the face of the moon, bringing to the surface what was hidden, revealing the results of our actions, and filling us with an energy of emotional peak. It is a natural moment for closing a cycle, for seeing things as they really are. But today is no ordinary full moon. The second force, and the most potent, is that of the total eclipse. During an eclipse, the Earth aligns perfectly between the sun and the moon, and our own shadow is projected onto the lunar disk. Think about the meaning of this. The Earth's shadow, which symbolizes our collective subconscious, our karma, everything we have swept under the rug, is projected onto our emotional world, the moon. Eclipses are therefore great revealers. They do not hide, they expose. They function as accelerators of destiny, forcing conclusions and bringing to light truths that can no longer be postponed. An eclipse is a point of no return. The clarity it brings is definitive. The third force is that of the so-called blood moon. This name, though dramatic, describes the reddish color the moon acquires when it is fully covered by the Earth's shadow. This red hue does not symbolize violence, but rather the intensity, the vitality, and the raw essence of our emotions. It is as if the blood of the matter, its most fundamental and visceral truth, comes to the surface. It is emotion without filters, passion without masks, truth without varnish. It is life in its purest and at times wildest form. And where does this cosmic drama take place? On the stage of Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac, the ocean where all journeys end. Pisces is the energy of dissolution, of surrender, of karmic endings, and of spiritual connection. The closures that happen under this energy are not practical or logical. They are soul endings. It is the dissolution of an energetic tie, the end of a pattern of suffering, the surrender of a burden we have carried for too long. When you add these forces together, the culmination of the full moon, the power of a total eclipse, the intensity of the blood moon, and the dissolving scenery of Pisces, the result is a perfect storm, created with a single purpose. Today's energy amplifies feeling, making it impossible to ignore what your heart truly knows. It reveals the shadow, showing you the truths you have hidden from yourself. And above all, it forces endings. It is not a negotiation, it is a verdict. The energy of a total eclipse in Pisces is like a purifying flood. Its function is not to destroy indiscriminately, but rather to dissolve everything that does not have a real foundation, everything that is not sustained by the soul's truth. Today, this energy reaches its peak, and it moves through your life with the precision of a universal solvent, focusing on three main areas where illusions and energetic attachments tend to accumulate. What ends today is not necessarily what your rational mind would choose to end. What ends is what your soul already knows it can no longer carry. The eclipse's criterion is simple. Everything that steals your peace, everything that drains your vital energy, everything that keeps you trapped in a pattern of suffering becomes a target for this great release. The first area to be illuminated by the red light of the moon is that of relationships that only suck energy. Think about the connections in your life, not just the romantic ones, but friendships, family ties, professional partnerships. Are there connections you maintain out of obligation, guilt, fear of loneliness? Relationships where you constantly feel you are giving more than you receive, where your energy is drained, where you leave an interaction feeling smaller than when you entered. The eclipse in Pisces dissolves fragile, energetic boundaries. It forces you to feel, in an undeniable way, where your vital energy is leaking. The cut here may not be a dramatic conversation. It may be an internal, sudden, and definitive perception. A moment of clarity in which you look at a dynamic, and your body, your soul, simply say, enough, no more. It is the end of tolerance for what diminishes you. It is the dissolution of an energetic cord that kept you tied to a dynamic of useless sacrifice. The second area under the eclipse's focus is projects with no real foundation. Our life is full of projects. Our career, our creative dreams, our ambitions. The energy of Pisces rules our highest dreams. But the eclipse tests whether those dreams have roots or if they are just fantasies. A project with no real foundation is one that you pursue not out of a soul's calling, but out of an ego's need to prove your worth, to win the approval of others, to fit into a model of success that is not truly yours. It could be a career path that gives you status, but leaves you empty inside. It could be a goal that seemed brilliant on paper, but whose execution has become a heavy and joyless burden. Today, the energy of the eclipse dissolves the illusion that sustained these projects. The passion that was forced simply disappears. The motivation that came from the ego is exhausted. What remains is the raw truth, a path that has no heart. The cut here is the honesty to admit to yourself, this is not for me. It is the permission to abandon a dream that was not yours, to make space for the one that truly is. Finally, the deepest and most personal area, the emotional patterns of repeating pain. This is the most subtle and most powerful work of the eclipse. We all have our patterns, the tendency to repeat the same type of dysfunctional relationship, the cycle of self-sabotage that appears whenever we are close to success, the internal voice of criticism that diminishes us. These patterns are like karmic grooves, paths that our energy has become accustomed to traveling. A total lunar eclipse, especially in Pisces, is one of the most potent opportunities the cosmos offers us to dissolve one of these patterns at a root level. Today's energy illuminates the pattern at the exact moment it happens. You see yourself about to react in the same old way, and suddenly, a new awareness arises. You see the choice. You see the cage door. The cut here is the act of, for the first time, consciously not repeating the pattern. It is the moment when you see the cycle and choose not to enter it. In all these areas, the mechanism is the same. The eclipse does not come to punish you. It comes to free you from what causes you suffering. Its function is to bring peace through truth. Therefore, if you look at your life today and feel a profound lack of peace in a relationship, in a project, or in an internal pattern, do not resist the message. The absence of peace is the diagnosis. The conclusion is the cure. If you do not have peace now, expect the cut today. The energy of an eclipse does not operate only in the field of emotion and intuition. For its message to be unequivocal, it manifests in the concrete world, in our daily lives, through clear signs that function as material proof of the closure that is occurring. The cut is not an abstraction, it leaves a trail. Throughout this day, if you are attentive, you will notice that the universe sends confirmations, as if it were stamping and authenticating the end of a cycle. Remember this truth. When the eclipse promises a cut, it delivers concrete signs. Your job is to recognize them, not as random events, but as the landmarks that confirm that the process of release is, in fact, happening in real time. The first and most common of these signs arrives through communication, definitive messages. Pay attention to today's conversations, the emails that arrive, the messages you exchange. The energy of the eclipse removes ambiguity. That answer you've been waiting for weeks that never came, today may appear with a cutting clarity. It could be a clear refusal to a request, an acceptance that ends a period of uncertainty, or a message from someone who, instead of leaving the door ajar, uses words of finality such as goodbye, this ends here, or thank you for everything. These communications have a weight of completion. They are not an invitation to continue negotiating. They are the full stop. They are the universe using the voice of others to deliver the verdict you needed to hear, formally closing a dialogue that had already been energetically exhausted. The second sign is even more tangible. Documents or papers that close processes. The eclipse loves to formalize endings. Therefore, do not be surprised if, precisely today, you receive confirmation that a bureaucratic or legal process has come to an end. It could be the email that confirms the settlement of a debt, the document that formalizes the dissolution of a partnership, the final signature that closes the sale of a property, or even the completion certificate for a course that had been dragging on. Each of these papers is a modern ritual. They are the physical proof, in the world of matter, that an energetic contract has been fulfilled and terminated. The stamp, the signature, the finalized status, these are the universe's way of saying this part of your story is officially archived. You are free to move on. Each of these documents that arrives today is an anchor of reality, proof that the liberation is not just a feeling, but a fact. The third sign comes, once again, from the world of dreams, but in a different way. If the dreams of the previous days were repetitive and about processing, the dreams on the night of the eclipse are about resolution. Often, the subconscious represents the cut in a symbolic and clear way. You might dream that you're leaving a house and locking the door behind you with no desire to return. You might dream that you finish a long journey and finally arrive at your destination. You might dream of a conversation where you say exactly what needs to be said and the situation is resolved. These dreams are not about the anguish of the process, but but about the peace of the conclusion. They are your psyche, confirming in its own internal theater that the closure was successful and that the integration of the new reality has already begun. Finally, observe the public events that mark endings. Sometimes, the macrocosm mirrors our microcosm. News about the end of an era, the death of a public figure who marked your life, the announcement of the end of a company or a movement. These collective events can function as a symbolic mirror for our own personal endings, giving us a language to understand what we are feeling and reminding us that we are part of a larger cycle of death and rebirth. When you see a great ending happening in the world, recognize it as a nod from the universe, a confirmation that the energy of closure is, in fact, operating on all levels. With the clarity of the signs and the certainty of the endings, we arrive at the most important question of the day. How do we carry ourselves in the midst of this cosmic verdict? If the energy is one of finality, what is our part in the process? The human temptation, when faced with an ending, is almost always to resist, to fight, to negotiate, to deny, to try to hold on to what is already slipping through our fingers. The greatest wisdom you can practice today is to do the exact opposite. The fight is already over. The deliberations have ended. The jury has already given its opinion. The correct posture for today is not that of the warrior trying to win the battle, but that of the sovereign who accepts the outcome of their kingdom with grace and dignity, knowing that this result serves a greater good. This posture is divided into three fundamental attitudes. The first and most crucial is to accept what comes. Acceptance in this context is not weakness. It is not passive resignation or defeat. It is the highest act of power that exists, that of aligning with reality. Trying to fight against the current of an eclipse is to guarantee exhaustion and suffering. The true strength lies in stopping swimming against the tide, taking a deep breath, and allowing yourself to float in the direction that the river of life is now indicating. The pain of an ending rarely comes from the end itself, but from our resistance to it. When you stop fighting and simply say yes to what is happening, yes, this conversation is necessary, yes, this feeling of loss is real, yes, this chapter has ended, an immense peace can arise in the midst of the turbulence. Acceptance is what transforms a painful ending into a serene passage. After acceptance comes the second attitude, to organize what remains. An eclipse never takes everything. Its function is to dissolve what is false, fragile, and misaligned, so that what is true, strong, and essential can finally have space to breathe and grow. After the wave passes, look at the beach of your life. What has remained? Which relationships have withstood the test of truth? Which parts of your work still resonate with your soul? Which values and internal truths have shown themselves to be unshakable? This is your gold. This is your ground. Your task today is to begin organizing this treasure. Take a mental or written inventory of everything that is solid and real. By focusing your attention on what has remained, you shift your energy from grief for the loss to gratitude for the foundation. You honor what has survived and begin to recognize it as the bedrock for your next cycle. The third attitude is a readjustment of perspective. Do not demonize the loss. Our mind tends to frame endings as failures. The project that ended, the relationship that fell apart, we see them as mistakes, as lost time. The eclipse invites us to see in a radically different way. Every ending that happens today is, in its essence, a liberation. It is a profound saving of energy. That relationship that drained you, even if it had good moments, was consuming a vital energy that now returns to you. That soulless project was a drain on your creativity, which can now be reinvested in something you are passionate about. See each ending not as an amputation, but as the act of letting go of extremely heavy baggage that you had grown accustomed to carrying. Be grateful for the experience, for its lesson, honor what was, and then feel the relief of no longer needing to spend your strength to sustain what was already dead. These three postures, accepting, organizing, and not demonizing, converge into a single golden rule for managing your energy today. Your focus, your life force, is your most precious resource. Do not waste it trying to revive the past. Invest it in the foundation of your future. Today, spend energy only on what builds. The day comes to an end, and with it, a cycle. Today, you have witnessed the mechanics of the universe operating in a direct and unequivocal way. You have felt the tide rise, seen the concrete signs of the cut, and most importantly, you have learned how to carry yourself before the inevitable, not with resistance, but with the acceptance of a sovereign. The eclipse's verdict was not a punishment, it was a clarification. It was the hand of the cosmos, sweeping from your board everything that was fragile, false, or that no longer served your evolution. The work was not easy. The truth that emerges from a blood moon in Pisces is rarely comfortable, but it is always and absolutely liberating. What you feel now, in this stillness that follows the storm, is the result of this great realignment. The final metaphor for this day is the oldest and the most powerful. The moon bleeds, and the contract dissolves. Imagine that. The red color of the moon was not an omen of disaster, but the symbol of your own life force being purified. It was the bleeding of old wounds, the release of ancestral grievances, the purge of stagnant energies that you carried in your emotional field. And with this release, the invisible contracts that bound you were nullified. The contract with self-sacrifice, the contract with fear, the contract with a relationship or a path that had already died inside. Today, they dissolved in the great tide of Pisces. And what comes after this dissolution? What happens when the water recedes? What remains will be your ground. Look around you, look within you. What has survived today's flood is what is real. It is the people, the truths, and the parts of yourself that are made of rock. This is your new bedrock, your unshakable foundation for everything that comes next. Tomorrow, when the sun rises, the air will be different. Lighter, cleaner, the emotional intensity will have passed, leaving behind a serene and potent clarity. The work of grieving for what is gone may continue, but it will be a clean grief, without the weight of confusion. Your real work begins now, to build upon this new ground, to honor today's liberation by not repeating the patterns that were dissolved. The energy you spent sustaining what was false now returns to you as a precious resource to be invested in the creation of a more authentic life. If you have consciously journeyed through this day, if you have accepted the verdict of the cosmos and are ready to honor your own liberation, seal this moment. Anchor this energy in the material world. Like this video, share it with someone who needs a word of strength in this moment of closure, and declare your participation in this powerful cosmic rite of passage with the keyword that defines this day. In the comments, write eclipse, and don't forget to subscribe, as the journey of rebuilding on this new foundation begins now. Together, we will continue to navigate what comes next, always towards our most solid truth.